So most of our clients look at turnover in a couple of different ways. One is overall turnover. So how many people are there in the organization and how many people turn over each year. The challenge with that particular metric is it's actually capturing a few different things. One of them is hiring poorly. So hiring poorly you might think of as someone being hired and not staying for some period of time or not achieving something in some period of time. But also things like demographic shifts. So if a workforce is older, then that workforce may be more likely each year to retire than it was the prior year. And that's a different kind of problem than hiring poorly.
There can be different variations. You could have that denominator be some rolling average, but nonetheless, it's sort of like what's the ratio of people who left to people who were employed.
When you're looking at the ratio metrics, it's unclear sort of what action do you take. What you really need to be focusing on is of the people who were hired most recently, how are they performing? Because that's where you can make the difference.
For us, for Arena, we're focused on new hire turnover. Instead of having the denominator be the total number of employees, the denominator is how many people did you hire in a particular period of time. We look at the numerator as of those people that you hired who have had the opportunity to be employed for a certain period of time, for 60 days or 90 days or 180 days, how many of them have left? So you really are looking at sort of the success rate of the hires.
Let's walk through a basic example. Let's say at the beginning of a new year, 3 employees are hired. Remember that we're focused on new hire turnover, so it's those 3 new hires that we've got our eyes on. And here we're interested in 90-day turnover, so we've got to wait a little bit for those employees to mature. Now let's assume that as time rolls by, we get to day 89, and on that day, one of those new employees leaves the company. The following day, the 90th day, we're ready to calculate new employee turnover. There are 3 new employees, one of which has left. We therefore calculate a 33% turnover. At the same time, let's say a new employee is hired immediately to replace the departing person from day 89. We don't count that person in our calculation just yet. At 180 days, their 90th day, that's when this new hire will have hit the mark.
When we look at our results with clients, there are 2 different ways to look at it. One is what was it before and then we deploy and what is it after. The other is how do we do when we predict someone is going to stay compared to when we don't make a prediction or when we predict that someone's going to leave. Both are fine ways to look at it. And when we look at those results, we always find very significant results looking at it both ways. Philosophically, though, we tend to think that the second way is slightly more effective as a method to do it. When you look at pre-post, frequently when organizations are bringing us in, they're doing a range of different things at the same time. So they might be saying, there are all kinds of ways we're trying to transform our organization. One of them is we're going to increase salaries. One of them is that we're going to change our onboarding process. One of them is we're going to change our performance review process. One of them is we are going to start changing how we promote people. And all of those different things could be having an impact on turnover. And so when you look at us and you say, before it was this, then we deploy, after it was this, you might say, well, how do you know that it's Arena that's driving that change, as opposed to some subset of other things that you might have been doing? And so that's why we think of the second category as a very important way of isolating Arena's impact on an organization. Specifically, that we're looking over the same time period at the same groups of people and just looking at who we predicted was going to stay, who we predicted was higher risk of leaving, and who we didn't make a prediction for. And so, again, we will look at both ways because most of our clients the pre-post will be important to them. But we will look at both ways again, just to ensure that we are having the impact that we think we are having and we believe we are having, rather than something else the organization might have been doing at that period of time.
So at Arena, the way we think about measuring turnover is this approach that we call milestone adjusted turnover. We start with what is the milestone we want to measure. Is it 60-day turnover? Is it 90-day turnover? Is it 180-day turnover? Is it 2-year turnover? So you start with that milestone. And based on that milestone, the individuals included in the denominator, the hires, are adjusted. So for example, if I hire 100 people on January 1st, on April 1st, I could actually measure the 90-day turnover of that group, of those 100 people. I could say, okay, of the 100 I hired on January 1st, how many are no longer here on April 1st? And that would give me a milestone adjusted turnover rate for 90-day turnover for that group. And the reason that works is because each of those people that were hired on January 1st, they've had the opportunity to be here at least 90 days. So my calculation there is valid.
Did someone stay for a year? In nursing, that could be 2 years, depending on the category. In housekeeping, that could be 90 days or 180 days. But so that we end up looking at those metrics more specifically.
Arena cares a lot about new hire turnover because that's where we can have the most impact. So when we partner with an organization, we can't do much about the folks they've already brought into the organization. But what we can do is help them make better choices moving forward. So by making predictions about how an applicant is likely to perform as an employee, we can help the organization make better hires so that those hires are then retained for much longer.
So we'll typically look at turnover rates among groups that we are predicting are going to stay against control groups. And those control groups could be any number of groups. So they could be folks for whom we did not generate a prediction. They could be folks for whom we predicted they would not stay. But that allows us to compare our predictions against other groups of people that are facing the same sort of interventions across the organization other than Arena, and allow us to more precisely identify whether or not we're causing it over the same time period. For example, if you're looking at 90-day turnover, we would typically say, okay, let's hire some people and then wait 90 days and see if they stayed 90 days. And that's actually how we would measure it. And that's actually how we would hold ourselves accountable to a particular metric. But qualitatively, our clients will typically start saying things in the first month or two that they're starting to see movement.